At 80, Tom Selleck finally tells the truth about James Garner. When a man reaches 80 years of age, reflection becomes more than a luxury, it becomes a responsibility. After a lifetime spent under the public gaze, Tom Selleck has finally allowed himself to look backward with candor. For decades, the mustachioed actor who embodied Thomas Magnum, Frank Reagan, and a dozen other iconic characters carefully guarded his private thoughts, especially about the people who shaped him. But now, as he surveys his career and life from a vantage point of 80, he is ready to admit what he has long kept close. Much of the man he became, both on screen and off, was inspired by the example of James Garner. For Selleck, Garner wasn't just another Hollywood colleague. He was a mentor, a mirror, and a friend who modeled authenticity in an industry that often rewards pretense. And as Selleck tells it now, the truth about Garner is inseparable from the truth about himself. Thomas William Selleck was born on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan. His father, Robert, worked in real estate and later in executive management, while his mother, Martha, held the family together with steady warmth. The Sellecks were not wealthy, nor did they possess Hollywood connections. They were part of the American working and middle class, hardworking, pragmatic, and driven by the belief that persistence could build opportunity. When Tom was still young, the family relocated to Sherman Oaks, California. The San Fernando Valley of the 1950s was a place where citrus groves were giving way to suburbs where the shadow of Hollywood loomed, but rarely touched ordinary families. The move west gave the Selleck children more room to grow, and it planted Tom in the heart of a culture that valued both ambition and self-reliance. From an early age, Selleck gravitated toward sports. His height, eventually topping out at 6'4", gave him a commanding presence on the basketball court. Friends recall a boy who was competitive but not arrogant, someone who thrived in the camaraderie of team sports. By high school, his talent was undeniable, and a basketball scholarship to the University of Southern California followed. At USC, Selleck was a Trojan through and through. He played hard on the court and pursued a degree in business administration, planning for a future that looked practical rather than glamorous. His dream at the time was steady success, perhaps in corporate life or coaching. Hollywood was only a few miles away geographically, but a universe away in his imagination. It was fate, or perhaps the perceptiveness of others, that nudged Selleck toward performance. A drama coach at USC suggested he try acting. The idea seemed absurd at first. Selleck was a jock, not a thespian. But curiosity led him to classes, and curiosity soon turned into interest. In those early workshops, he discovered something unexpected. He enjoyed it. The craft gave him an outlet beyond the physicality of sports, demanding presence, emotional range, and vulnerability. He began auditioning and landed a series of commercials, most famously for Pepsi in 1960s. Those ads, with his chiseled features and boyish charm, brought him national attention and his first taste of what it meant to be in front of a camera not as an athlete, but as an actor. Selleck's road to stardom was not overnight. He endured years of small roles, false starts, and near misses. He appeared on The Dating Game and later popped up in a variety of television series, from Lancer to The Rockford Files. Each role was a stepping stone, an opportunity to refine his instincts and toughen his resolve. Hollywood is littered with the bones of promising actors who gave up when success didn't come quickly. Selleck persisted. He auditioned endlessly, often losing major roles by a hair. Perhaps the most famous disappointment came when he was cast as Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Arkansas. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas both wanted him for the role, but his contractual obligations to Magnum PI prevented him from taking it. Harrison Ford, of course, became immortal as Indy, while Selleck reconciled himself to what might have been. Yet, as history shows, fate had other plans, and those plans turned out to be just as iconic. In 1980, Selleck landed the role that would define him in the public. Thomas Magnum, the Ferrari-driving, Hawaiian shirt-wearing private investigator of Magnum PI. The show was an immediate sensation. For 8 seasons, audiences tuned in not just for the mysteries and the action, but for Selleck's embodiment of a character who was both tough and tender, witty and grounded. Magnum became a cultural touchstone of the 1980s. The mustache, the aloha shirts, the easy grin, all became part of the Selleck brand. The show earned him both an Emmy and a Golden Globe and made him one of the most recognizable faces on television. But fame came with pressure. The hours were grueling, the expectations high, and the burden of being a leading man sometimes overwhelming. It was during this period that James Garner's influence on Selleck deepened. Garner, who had navigated the peaks and valleys of television stardom with grace, became an example of how to endure without losing one's sense of self. Selleck had admired Garner long before they met. As a boy, he had watched Maverick, captivated by Garner's ability to blend humor, toughness, and authenticity. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Garner never seemed to be performing. He seemed to simply be. That sincerity struck Selleck deeply. When the two men finally worked together, Selleck's admiration only grew. Garner welcomed him not with superiority, but with warmth. Jim didn't have a phony bone in his body, Selleck later said. He treated everyone with the same respect, whether you were the director or the grip. That was the lesson of a lifetime. Garner also offered guidance during long conversations on set. He warned Selleck about the dangers of ego, the emptiness of fame, and the corrosive effects of entitlement. He urged him to protect his integrity and to remember that no role or paycheck was worth sacrificing one's character. These weren't just professional lessons, they were life lessons, and Selleck absorbed them. Even as Magnum PI cemented his stardom, Selleck sought to expand beyond it. In 1987, he starred in Three Men and a Baby, a light-hearted comedy that became a box office juggernaut. The role proved he wasn't confined to action and drama. He had comedic timing and charm that played just as well in family fare. He also pursued his passion for westerns, starring in films like Quigley Down Under 1990. With his rugged presence and love of the genre, Selleck fit seamlessly into the cowboy tradition of Hollywood. These roles reinforced his versatility and kept him from being pigeonholed. Selleck's personal life mirrored the values Garner had modeled. His first marriage to model Jacqueline Ray brought him a stepson, Kevin, whom he legally adopted. Kevin later pursued music and achieved success as part of the rock band Tonic. After that marriage ended, Selleck found lasting love with British actress Gilly Mack, whom he married in 1987. Together, they welcomed their daughter Hannah in 1988. Unlike many Hollywood families, the Sellecks sought privacy and stability. They purchased a 60-acre ranch in Hidden Valley, once owned by Dean Martin, and made it their sanctuary. There, Selleck immersed himself in ranch work, repairing fences, tending avocado groves, clearing brush. "I hate the gym," he quipped, "so I'd rather sweat outdoors fixing roads than sit on a stationary bike staring at my navel." For Hannah, the ranch became a playground and training ground for her passion, equestrian sports. She grew into a respected competitor, and her father has always spoken with pride about her dedication and discipline. Since 2010, Selleck has starred as Frank Reagan, the stoic patriarch of a family of New York police officers, on CBS's Blue Bloods. The show, now a staple of Friday night television, has showcased Selleck's maturity as an actor. Reagan is commanding yet compassionate, a role that reflects both Selleck's gravitas and the values he has long lived by: duty, family, and integrity. Now, at 80, Selleck admits what he once held back. James Garner was more than a colleague, he was a compass. Garner's long marriage to Lois Clark showed Selleck that one could be a star without sacrificing family. His humor and humility offered a model for how to endure success without arrogance. His authenticity set a standard that Selleck has spent a lifetime trying to match. When I walked away from Magnum PI to spend more time with Jilly and Hannah, it was because of Jim, Selleck says. He showed me that family isn't something you fit around work. Work is something you fit around family. The friendship between the two men was marked by laughter, advice, and a shared understanding of the burdens of fame. Garner could deflate anxiety with a story or lighten a crushing day with a joke. His influence endures not only in Selleck's memories, but in the way Selleck has carried himself for decades. "I owe him more than I can ever repay," Selleck admits. "The truth is, James Garner set the standard for everything I've tried to be, and at 80, I can honestly say I'm still trying to live up to it." He also pursued his passion for westerns, starring in films like Quigley Down Under 1990. With his rugged presence and love of the genre, Selleck fit seamlessly into the cowboy tradition of Hollywood. These roles reinforced his versatility and kept him from being pigeonholed. Selleck's personal life mirrored the values Garner had modeled. His first marriage, to model Jacqueline Ray, brought him a stepson, Kevin, whom he legally adopted. Kevin later pursued music and achieved success as part of the rock band Tonic. After that marriage ended, Selleck found lasting love with British actress Gilly Mack, whom he married in 1987. Together they welcomed their daughter Hannah in 1988. Unlike many Hollywood families, the Sellecks sought privacy and stability. They purchased a 60-acre ranch in Hidden Valley, once owned by Dean Martin, and made it their sanctuary. There, Selleck immersed himself in ranch work, repairing fences, tending avocado groves, clearing brush. "I hate the gym," he quipped, "so I'd rather sweat outdoors fixing roads than sit on a stationary bike staring at my navel." For Hannah, the ranch became a playground and training ground for her passion, equestrian sports. She grew into a respected competitor, and her father has always spoken with pride about her dedication and discipline. Since 2010, Selleck has starred as Frank Reagan, the stoic patriarch of a family of New York police officers, on CBS's Blue Bloods. The show, now a staple of Friday night television, has showcased Selleck's maturity as an actor. Reagan is commanding yet compassionate,